Moving over to Great Flinders Netball now, and it was another big weekend in the association with one main upset headlining the weekend of action, and Elizabeth Burns is with me to tell us all about it. How are you, Elizabeth? Thanks for joining us again.
That's my pleasure, and yes, it is the pointy end of the season, and definitely a chance for some of those little surprise upsets to really rock the boat. So another week of those just last week. So all happening, and we'll start off with that surprise upset. It was Eyre United over Lock, 50-48 at Lock. So Eyre sitting 6th, Lock sitting 3rd. So we definitely didn't see this one coming. No, absolutely ripper game, I gather, and the Saints girls really gelling and pulling out some great netball, and especially after the Baldacera girls, Melinda and Nadia, they had injuries earlier in the season, and they're really sort of peaking at the right end of the season. I gather that Tammy Lucina and Eden Telfer, they were just amazing in defence, and Sasha Stratford played a blinder through the mid-court, and I think, yes, the Saints girls really had it turned on for the game. I think Lock are feeling the loss of Millie Morton through the centre, and they actually played Tanya Habner, who's played defence all year. They played her in wing attack and switched her with Jordan Sladden, who had a half in wing defence. So I was looking at the score sheets. There are only 2 or 3 goals in it at every single break, but Eyre United had a fantastic third quarter. And it turned out to be the winning one for the Saints girls. They were down by 2 at half-time. They shot 14 goals to Lock's 9 in the third to be up by 3, and they were pretty even in the fourth. But, the Saints girls had just done enough in that third quarter to take that game out and win by 2.
All right, great win by Eyre United there. Probably their win of the season, so always good to see an upset. But for Lock, not the time that you want to be losing games right before the finals roll around. We'll move on to our next couple of games. Elliston Districts had a pretty easy win over United Yalana, who are still winless for the season, 60-27.
Yes, I think this game was an expected result. Elliston cemented their position in second. They play a really strong defensive game with Kelsey Hull really having a big impact in goal defence. And they've got a young player, Claire Daniel, who played goal defence in juniors last year but has been more in the mid-court this year, and she stepped back into goal defence and worked really well with Kelsey Hull. Elliston's goalies, Rosie Rom and Emerson O'Brien, they found the ring pretty easily, and I think Emma Willis played for a quarter as well. Yalana remained largely unchanged all game, but they actually popped Elsie Madden, who has played in the mid-court all year, popped her back into goal defence. And just showing her versatility, I reckon she was mainly a goalie through her whole junior career, and popped her into defence, and apparently she played a blinder.
All right, and in our last game of the round, Tumby Bay, no surprise here. They got the win over the Ramblers, 53-33. They've been tough to beat all year, Tumby Bay, and they were very convincing in this one again.
They certainly were. Tumby, they really came out firing in that first quarter, shot 16 goals to Ramblers 5 in that first quarter, and they could keep that momentum all game. The remainder of the game was actually, it's a shame Ramblers were missing in that first quarter, because the remainder of the game was really quite close. Most of the quarters were reasonably even. Both teams only shot 7 goals in that final quarter, but Tumby came to play and they were just too strong. Ilka Stone is playing some amazing netball for Tumby shooting, and Ramblers, even though they've got a very strong defence lineup, wasn't enough, and Tumby rolled them out 53-33.
All right, and we look ahead to the round 16 action, second to last round of the season. Things are really heating up, and it's kicking off with Cummins Kapini and Tumby Bay at Kapini. So this one probably should be another win for Tumby Bay, you would think.
You would think. I have a feeling it could be a similar game to Tumby's game against Ramblers last weekend. Cougars will need to start strong. If they can come out firing at that first whistle, I think it'll be a competitive game. You just can't afford to snooze with Tumby. They'll just eat you up for dinner. So, with Ilka Stone and Maisie Curtis in goals, there'll be a lot of focus on Cougars really sort of bringing their defence. Jess Vandenbroek is playing some great netball in defence, but I suspect Tumby might just be too strong.
And in our next game, it's the Ramblers and Elliston Districts. And Ramblers, we'll see if they can bounce back off that loss last week. But Elliston have been a tough team to beat all year as well.
They have 4 versus 2 on the ladder. Ramblers have got 5 wins, I think, to Elliston's 9. So should be an interesting game. The Ramblers goalies are really going to have to work hard against Elliston's defence. It will be a very interesting game for them. If Elliston sort of have a full team, I really think that they will be a little bit hard for Ramblers to get over, but I'm a little bit loath to say anything too dramatic at this time because I seem to be proven wrong most weeks in this last round.
Well, speaking of being proven wrong, Eyre United had the big upset win last week, and they're playing in the last game of the round here against United Yolana. And a week ago, we probably would have thought this was a good chance for United Yolana to get a win on the board before the season ends, but Eyre United have found a bit of form.
They have. Those Saints girls are really peaking at the right end of the year. They'll have the home ground advantage. Interestingly, a win for the Saints girls now will move them from 6th to 5th. And then they're really going to be challenging for 4th place against Ramblers in the final game, and they play each other. So Ramblers and Saints will be playing each other in the last game of the minor round, and so that'll be a knockout match for one of those teams for a position in the finals. So, the pressure is on. I think the Saints girls will be fully aware of that and will really bring it this week against Yolana. And then their shot at a spot in finals will all come down to that last game. So some very interesting things happening in the netball.
Certainly going to be a big final 2 rounds. And yes, interesting things happening indeed. That win last week for Eyre over Lock could end up kickstarting something special for them as they look to push into the finals picture. We'll leave things there. Elizabeth, thank you very much for stopping by. Enjoy the netball this weekend and we'll catch up next week.
Sounds great. No worries. Thank you.
And we move straight over to the Eastern Eyre Netball Association where our correspondent Kristy Turnbull is on the line after a round of, very, very close games last weekend. How are you, Kristy? Thanks for joining us again.
I'm well, thanks, Dan. My pleasure joining. How are you going?
Yeah, very well. Been a pretty busy week, but yes, glad that we've made it to the Friday night sports show because that means it's almost Saturday morning, and for me that means the weekend, but for you that probably means you'll be full with sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely tied up with sport tomorrow and also Sunday where we start kicking off our vote counting for our netball count. So very busy weekend coming up for the Eastern Eyre Association.
Yeah, it never ends. And it was, like I said, it was a close round of games on the weekend. Pretty predictable in the results, but maybe not quite in the score lines. And we'll start with Cowell and Ports. Cowell got up 36-32. Looks like that one was a cracking game. And unfortunately for Ports, that drops them to 0-11 on the season. And yeah, inching closer to that unwanted winless record.
Yeah, unfortunately for Port, who come up against very strong Kimber this week. So great game of netball. It was excellent to watch, and it was the netball that we expect from these two teams, bottom of the ladder teams. They always have a really good hit out, Cow and Port, and we know that they're close. They've been close all year. They've been close year in and year out. So unfortunately, the Cowgirls just a little bit too strong for Ports in the end. But the intensity of the game was really high, and the pressure across the court from both teams was really evident. We had more held balls in that game, I think, than I've seen in a game of netball for a long, long time. So both teams applying great pressure. Port couldn't quite get the win to Beck Harkness before she retires as they were hoping to. But yeah, full credit to Shani Flavor and Nikki Sivia for Cow, who shot very accurately, not allowing for too many rebounds.
And in our other game, it was 2v3 with the top team, Central Eyre United, on the bye. So Kimber Districts had the pretty close win over Eastern Rangers, 45-36. And just looking at ladder positioning and percentage, this is probably about what you would expect this score to look like. But yeah, tell us a bit more about this matchup.
Yeah, so that's allowed Kimber to sneak back into that second spot. I think I said last week about how the top 3 spots are still very much open coming into the games with Kimber with that loss of a point that we discussed last week. So Kimber were very happy with that win. They played a really strong team game, and we know that they do that so well. And they would have been really happy to get that second spot back to give them a second chance in finals. It sounds like the game was played, again, really high intensity, really strong game. Eastern Rangers applied a lot of pressure to Kimber across the court and played a hard game, put up a good fight. But, yeah, that Kimber team's just very, very strong, and they played that netball that we know they play so well and got that nice 9-goal win over Rangers.
So that is round 13 done and dusted. Just 2 weeks to go now as we look ahead to the round 14 action, and it looks like the results might be a bit more predictable in this one. Kimber sitting in second, taking on Ports in fifth. Should be a pretty good win for Kimber. Might even be a percentage booster because they're not too far behind Central Eyre United on percentage.
Yeah, I think, look, we know Kimber are playing really good netball. They come in form and a full side against the Ports, who have got Beck Harkness out this week, so she's fairly solid in their defence. But Letitia Masters will step up very well for Ports down in the defence end. Last time they met, Ports held Kimber to a 12-goal lead for half a game, and then Kimber just ran away with it, and I expect that will probably happen again. They just can't seem to match Kimber's intensity. They play a much faster game than the Ports girls, and they are a well-oiled machine. I think I say that every week about them. I think Kimber will get a fairly comfortable win over Ports and hold that second spot on the ladder.
And Kimber chasing down Central Eyre United on percentage, but Central Eyre United are playing Cowell, so it might be difficult for Kimber to chase them down because they'll be getting a percentage booster themselves, potentially. We're not going to write them down as a win just yet, but you would think they'll get a pretty convincing win there.
Yeah, I think, but as I said to you off air, Dan, I've said it all year about these wins that I think are convincing, and every now and again we get an upset. I don't think we'll get the upset this week. I think Storm are a very strong team. They're coming in with a full side, as are Cow. Again, those top of the ladder teams, they play a faster game of netball than the other teams, and that's why they're top, and that's why they're getting these solid wins. Cal certainly work hard. They'll apply pressure all across the court, and if we see them apply the pressure like they did last week against Port, they're certainly going to make Storm work really, really hard for that win.
All right, we'll see if there are any upsets or if it's business as usual in the round 14 action. But we're inching closer to the finals and we're getting very, very excited for it here in the Eastern Eyre Netball Association. Thanks for giving us all that info, Kristy. Enjoy the netball this weekend. I know you'll be very, very busy, but enjoy it nevertheless, and we'll catch up again next week.
Thanks, Dan. I look forward to it.